The United Earth Council met in silence. Outside the great glass dome of its orbital chamber, Earth hung in the blackness, blue, swirling, alive. Inside, the air was cold, sterile, and still. Delegates from Mars, the Moon, Ceres, Titan, and a dozen other off-world settlements sat in polished chairs arranged in a wide circle. At the center stood Council Speaker Valen Rowe, tall and sharp-eyed, his silver robes glinting under the soft lights. At the far end of the circle, alone in a simple gray suit, sat Ambassador Lin May of Earth. She did not fidget. She did not look away. She kept her hands folded in her lap and her eyes fixed on the speaker. She had known this day might come, but hope, stubborn and quiet, had stayed with her until the very last moment. After review, Speaker Rowe began, his voice calm but firm, and after 3 cycles of deliberation, the Council finds that Earth has repeatedly violated the Charter of Shared Sovereignty. He paused, letting the words settle like dust in still air. Earth has refused to surrender control of the Helios shipyards. Earth has denied access to the mineral-rich zones of the Kuiper Belt. Earth has withheld fusion core schematics from the Unified Science Archive. These are not minor breaches. They are acts of defiance against the unity we have built beyond our home world. A murmur passed through the chamber. Some delegates nodded. Others looked down, avoiding Lin May's gaze. They had once called Earth Mother. Now, they spoke of it as a problem to be managed or removed. Worse, Rowe continued, Earth continues to assert unilateral authority over matters that affect all of humanity. It speaks as if it alone remembers what it means to be human, while the rest of us have forgotten. His voice hardened. That arrogance cannot be tolerated in a system built on cooperation. Lin May finally spoke. Her voice was soft but clear, carrying easily in the quiet room. Earth does not claim to be the only voice of humanity, but it does claim the right to speak for itself. The shipyards were built with Earth's labor, Earth's steel, Earth's sacrifice. The Kuiper claims were staked before the Council even existed, and the fusion schematics? They were developed in labs that still breathe Earth's air, even if some of you have forgotten what that feels like. A delegate from Luna scoffed. You cling to dirt and gravity like children to a blanket. Out here, we've moved beyond that. Lin May turned to him. And yet your life support systems still run on algorithms written in Shanghai. Your food synthesizers use seeds from Kenya. Your med-based stock antibiotics first made in Mumbai. You call it moving beyond. We call it forgetting your roots. Speaker Rowe raised a hand. Enough. Sentiment does not override law. He looked at Lin May, his expression unreadable. The Council has reached its decision. By a vote of 23-7 with 2 abstentions, Earth is hereby expelled from the United Earth Council, effective immediately. All diplomatic ties are severed. All shared data networks will be closed to Earth within 12 hours. All Earth vessels are barred from Council-controlled space. The words fell like stones into water, ripples spreading outward, cold and final. Lin May stood slowly. She did not argue. She did not beg. She simply bowed her head once, a gesture of respect, not submission. Then she turned and walked out of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridor behind her. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. In New Delhi, students paused outside universities staring at public screens. In São Paulo, factory workers stopped their lines. In Cairo, elders gathered in courtyards whispering. In Beijing, Moscow, Nairobi, Jakarta, governments scrambled. Emergency alerts flashed on every device. Earth expelled from UEC. Diplomatic isolation confirmed. Orbital trade routes closed. For years, Earth had been treated as a junior partner, valued for its resources, its history, its population, but never trusted with real power. The off-world colonies born from Earth's science and sacrifice had grown strong, wealthy and proud. They built gleaming cities on Mars, domes on Europa, mining rigs in the asteroid belt, and slowly they began to see Earth not as their origin but as their burden, a crowded, chaotic planet choking on its own past. Earth had tried to adapt. It invested in clean energy, rebuilt its coasts, unified its fractured governments under the global accord. It even sent its best engineers and doctors to serve off-world, but nothing was enough. The Council always demanded more control, more access, more obedience. Now, they had taken the final step, exile. That night, in Geneva, under a sky still clear enough to see stars, The leaders of Earth's major nations met in a secure underground chamber. No cameras, no press. Just 20 people from every continent, sitting around a plain wooden table. President Eris Thorne of the North American Union spoke first. "They've cut us off. No data, no trade, no travel, we're on our own." Dr. Fatima Nkosi, head of the African Science Coalition, leaned forward. "Then we build our own networks, our own ships, our own future. But how?" asked Minister Chen of the East Asia bloc. "The UEC controls the orbital docks. They own the deep space comms. They have the advanced AI, the quantum drives, the zero-gravity foundries. We have factories and hope." "Hope is a start," said General Elena Rojas of the Southern Alliance. "But we'll need steel, silicon, and speed. And unity. Real unity, not just treaties but shared purpose." For hours they debated. Some wanted to beg for re-entry, others wanted to strike back. But one voice rose above the rest. Ambassador Lin Mei, who had just returned from orbit, her face tired but steady. "They think we're weak because we're tied to the ground," she said. "But gravity gives us strength. Roots give us resilience. They float in space untethered. We stand on soil that has fed billions. We've survived ice ages, wars, plagues. We will survive this." She looked around the table. They didn't just exile Earth, they challenged it. And Earth has never backed down from a challenge. By dawn, a decision was made. The global accord would be transformed, not into a government, but into a mission. Every nation would contribute: scientists, engineers, pilots, teachers, farmers. Resources would be pooled. Secrets would be shared. And Earth would build, not just to survive, but to rise. In hidden shipyards beneath the Gobi Desert. In repurposed oil rigs turned into launch platforms off the coast of Brazil. In underground labs beneath the Alps and the Himalayas. Work began that very day. The first project was simple. A communication satellite, built with old designs and new ingenuity, powered by solar cells made in Nairobi and processors forged in Seoul. It wouldn't match UEC tech, but it would work, and it would be theirs. As the sun rose over the Pacific, casting golden light on silent cities, people on Earth did not riot. They did not despair. They gathered in workshops, classrooms, and community centers. They asked, "What can I give? What can I build?" Because Earth had been told it didn't belong among the stars, and Earth had decided to prove them wrong, not with anger, but with action, not with war, but with work, and not alone. But together, the exile had begun, but so had the answer. After the expulsion, Earth fell quiet, not with sadness, but with purpose. The shock of being cast out by the off-world colonies lasted only a few days. Then something new began. People stopped looking up at the stars with longing, and started looking around at each other with resolve. Governments that once argued over borders and trade now shared blueprints. Factories that once made cars or clothes switched to building solar panels, water purifiers, and metal frames for spacecraft. Schools added new classes: orbital mechanics, zero-gravity farming, deep space communication. Children drew pictures not of cartoon heroes, but of engineers in gray suits, welding tools in hand. The Global Accord, once a loose group of cooperating nations, became something stronger. It was no longer just about peace or climate. It was about survival and pride. Every country had a role. Brazil offered its vast open lands near the equator for launch loops, giant magnetic tracks that could hurl ships into space without rockets. India shared its network of low-cost satellite makers. China opened its rare earth mines, which held the metals needed for powerful batteries and sensors. The African Union sent teams of young engineers to every continent, trained in solar tech and AI repair. Even small island nations contributed, designing floating labs and testing sea-based launch platforms. In the Sahara Desert, where heat shimmered like glass, a new kind of city rose. Not of homes or shops, but of mirrors and towers. Thousands of solar dishes focused sunlight onto central points, creating heat so intense it could melt metal or power engines. This was the Sun Forge, a place where Earth would make its own spacecraft parts without needing off-world factories. Workers wore light suits and goggles, moving between stations with calm focus. They weren't soldiers or spies. They were builders. In Siberia, deep beneath the ice, scientists worked in geothermal labs. They had lost access to the UEC's quantum computers, so they built their own. Slower, simpler, but honest. They used old server farms, rewired and cooled by underground rivers. Data flowed not through fancy off-world networks, but through hardened fiber lines buried under mountains and oceans. It wasn't fast, but it was theirs. The biggest challenge was propulsion. The UEC used fusion drives, clean, powerful, silent. Earth didn't have those anymore. But Earth had something else, time and cleverness. Teams in Tokyo, Berlin, and Buenos Aires studied old designs from the 21st century. They improved solar sails, thin sheets of reflective material that catch light from the sun and use it to push a ship forward. At first, people laughed. Sails in space? But the sails worked. They needed no fuel. They lasted for years, and they could carry cargo, water, seeds, medicine, to nearby orbits. Then came the breakthrough. A group of students in Lagos, Nigeria, working with retired aerospace engineers, figured out how to combine solar sails with small ion thrusters powered by Earth-made batteries. The ship wouldn't be fast, but it would be independent. They called it Odyssey 1. Building it was hard. No single nation had all the parts, so they traded. Kenya sent purified water for cooling systems. Canada sent aluminum from recycled buildings. Vietnam sent microchips hand-soldered in village workshops. Every piece had a story. Every bolt was turned by someone who believed. While the ship was being built, Earth also prepared its people. Pilots were chosen not by birth or wealth, but by skill and heart. They came from fishing villages in the Philippines, from high-tech labs in Seoul, from farms in Argentina. They trained in simulators made from old VR headsets and repurposed airplane cockpits. They learned to fix broken circuits with tape and wire. They practiced growing food in sealed boxes using only LED lights and recycled air. The UEC watched from afar, amused. News feeds from Mars and Luna mocked Earth's toy fleet. They're building kites, not ships, one commentator sneered. They'll be lucky to reach the moon before their batteries die. But Earth didn't care about the jokes. It cared about the work. By the 3rd year after the expulsion, Earth had launched 12 small satellites of its own. They didn't carry weapons. They carried weather data, medical updates, and open-source science. Any colony, even UEC ones, could use the signals if they chose to. Some did. Miners on Ceres, tired of UEC taxes, quietly tapped into Earth's network for navigation help. A research station on Titan used Earth's weather models to predict methane storms. The UEC punished them, but the help kept coming. Then came the day of Odyssey 1's launch. It wasn't flashy. There were no grand speeches broadcast across the system. Only a small crowd stood in the red dust of the Kenyan highlands, near a newly built magnetic launch loop. The ship looked strange, part sail, part cylinder, wrapped in silver foil that gleamed in the morning sun. It had no weapons, no luxury cabins, just a tiny pod for 2 crew members and room for supplies. Inside sat Captain Anya Patel, a former drone pilot from Mumbai, and engineer Kofi Mensah, who had grown up fixing radios in Accra. They wore simple flight suits, no medals. No flags, just the symbol of the Global Accord, a circle with a single green leaf inside. Ready? Anya asked over the comms. Ready, Kofi replied, checking the last connections. Below, thousands watched in silence. Not with fear, but with hope. The launch loop hummed. Magnets fired in sequence faster and faster until, whoosh, the ship shot upward, silent and smooth, riding Earth's magnetic field into the sky. No fire, no smoke, just speed and will. Within an hour, Odyssey 1 reached low orbit. It unfolded its great sail, thin as paper but strong as steel, catching sunlight like a flower turning to the sun. Cheers erupted on the ground. Not wild shouts, but steady, proud clapping. From orbit, Anya sent a message back to Earth. We are not lost. We are found. The UEC said nothing, but for the first time their silence felt uneasy. Earth kept building. More ships followed, Odyssey 2, Odyssey 3, each better than the last. Factories ran day and night. Schools taught space farming. Hospitals trained doctors for long missions. Even artists helped, painting murals of Earth's new dream, not to rule the stars, but to join them as equals. People began to speak differently. They didn't say we're stuck on Earth, they said we're building from Earth. And slowly others noticed. Independent traders in the asteroid belt, tired of UEC rules, started docking at Earth's new orbital station, built from recycled space junk and launched in pieces over 2 years. They traded water for Earth-grown medicine. They shared stories. They asked for help fixing their engines. Earth gave it freely. The UEC called it illegal contact, but the traitors didn't care. They had seen Earth ships, small, yes, but clean, honest, and kind. Back on the surface, life changed too. With no off-world imports, people reused everything. Clothes were mended. Machines were repaired, not replaced. Communities grew food on rooftops and in underground farms. Energy came from sun, wind, and heat from deep in the earth. Waste was turned into fuel. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and in that reality, something powerful grew. Unity. Not forced by laws, but chosen by people. A farmer in Vietnam sent seeds to a lab in Chile. A teacher in Norway taught coding to students in Nigeria through Earth's new network. A musician in Mexico City wrote a song about the Odyssey ships, and it played in villages from Alaska to New Zealand. Earth had been told it was backward, but in its simplicity it found strength. It had been told it was alone, but in its sharing it found friends. The fleet was still small. The empire was not made of steel and guns, but of trust and work. And that, Earth was beginning to realize, was harder to break than any wall. As the 4th year after the expulsion began, Earth launched its first deep space mission, not to claim territory, but to deliver clean water filters to a struggling mining camp near Mars. The UEC warned the camp not to accept it. But the miners were thirsty, and Earth's gift came with no strings. When the Earth ship arrived, the miners didn't see an enemy. They saw neighbors, and that, more than any weapon or treaty, changed everything. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was becoming a promise. Earth's ships did not arrive with guns or demands. They came quietly, like rain after a long drought. By the 5th year after the expulsion, the Odyssey fleet had grown to 20 vessels. They were not grand like the UEC warships. No glowing hulls, no humming energy shields. They were practical. Silver sails, recycled metal frames, and cabins built for 2 or 3 people at most. But they carried something the UEC had forgotten: kindness. The first stop was Ceres, the largest object in the asteroid belt. Once a quiet mining outpost, it had become a crowded, struggling place under UEC rule. Water was rationed. Medical supplies were expensive. The UEC charged high fees for every drop of oxygen, every repair part, every data update. Many miners lived in old leaking domes, breathing stale air and hoping their filters held. Then one morning, a small Earthship appeared in orbit. It sent a simple message: "We bring clean water filters and medicine. No payment needed." At first, the Ceres Council refused. They feared UEC punishment. But the people were desperate. A young doctor named Lyra Chen, born on Ceres but trained in Earth's open medical schools, spoke up. "Let them help," she said. "What do we have to lose but our suffering?" So they let the Earthship dock. Captain Anya Patel stepped out, not in a uniform but in a plain gray suit with the green leaf patch. She carried boxes, not weapons. Inside were ceramic filters that could turn dirty ice into drinkable water, and vials of antibiotics made in Mumbai labs. She also brought solar-powered diagnostic tools, small devices that could check heartbeats, blood, even bone health. The miners watched in silence. Then, one by one, they came forward. Word spread fast. Within weeks, other outposts heard the news. Phobos, the moon of Mars, sent a quiet signal. "We need help with our air recyclers." Earth responded. Odyssey 7 TAS arrived with spare parts and 2 engineers who stayed for 3 weeks, teaching locals how to fix and maintain the systems themselves. Europa's ice research station asked for cold-resistant seeds to grow food in their underground greenhouses. Earth sent them, along with simple hydroponic guides printed on waterproof paper. Titan's methane farms needed better sensors to track gas leaks. Earth's Nairobi Tech Hub designed a low-cost version and shipped it on Odyssey 12.0. Earth never asked for anything in return. No loyalty oaths, no data sharing, no promises to side with Earth in future conflicts, just help freely given. This confused the UEC. Their way was control, give a little, take more. Earth's way was trust, give freely, and let others choose. Slowly, quietly, independent settlements began to shift. On Vesta, a mining hub near the belt's edge, workers formed a new council. They stopped paying UEC docking fees and opened their ports to Earthships. When the UEC threatened to cut off their data link, Vesta replied, "We'll use Earth's network." And they did. Earth's satellites, though slower, were open to all. Anyone could connect. Anyone could learn. In the outer rings near Saturn, a group of free traders, people who moved goods between colonies without UEC licenses, started using Earth ships as guides. Earth's navigation charts were simple, hand-updated but honest. They marked safe paths, not secret toll zones like the UEC maps. The UEC called Earth's actions soft aggression. They claimed Earth was buying loyalty with cheap gifts. But the people who received those gifts knew better. They saw the care in every package. The handwritten notes, the extra batteries, the child-sized oxygen masks included just in case. Earth's empire was not built with flags or armies. It was built with hands and hearts. Its borders were not lines in space, but lines of trust. Where the UEC said, obey, Earth said, join us. Where the UEC said, pay, Earth said, take what you need. Back on Earth, life continued to change. Cities ran on clean energy. Farms grew food in vertical towers. Schools taught not just reading and math, but how to build a water purifier or code a satellite signal. Children played games where they fixed broken ships or delivered medicine to Mars. The dream of space was no longer for the rich or the chosen. It was for everyone. And Earth's fleet kept growing. Not just in numbers, but in purpose. Odyssey 15 carried teachers to a school on Ganymede, where children had not seen a new book in years. Odyssey 18 brought musicians who played concerts in domes across the belt, their songs mixing Earth rhythms with spaceborne melodies. Odyssey 20 carried seeds from every continent, wheat from Canada, rice from Vietnam, quinoa from Peru, to be tested in off-world soil. The UEC tried to stop it. They blocked Earth ships from official ports. They spread rumors that Earth's medicine was fake, that its tech would fail. But the proof was in the results. Ceres' water was clean. Phobos' air was fresh. Europa's greenhouses bloomed with green shoots. People began to whisper, why does Earth help us when the UEC only takes? Some UEC colonies grew restless. On Luna, young engineers started secret meetings sharing Earth's open-source designs. On Mars, farmers traded Earth seeds under the table. Even some UEC patrol officers, tired of enforcing harsh rules, turned a blind eye when Earth ships passed through their zones. Earth never pushed. It simply showed up. Then came the day of the solar storm. A massive burst of energy from the sun raced through the system. UEC ships with their advanced shields powered down safely. But smaller outposts, those without UEC protection, were in danger. Their power grids flickered. Communications failed. Life support systems strained. Earth's fleet, built for simplicity and resilience, handled the storm better than expected. Their solar sails folded safely. Their backup batteries held. And instead of hiding, they moved to help. Odyssey 9 rushed to a failing habitat near Juno. Its crew rerouted power from their own ship to keep the dome's heaters running. Odyssey 14 used its strong radio to send emergency signals when local comms died. For 3 days, Earth ships moved from one outpost to another, patching, sharing, saving. When the storm passed, the outposts were alive, thanks to Earth. That was the turning point. A meeting was called, not by governments, but by the people. Miners, farmers, doctors, teachers from a dozen independent settlements gathered in a neutral zone near the asteroid Hygeia. They spoke for 2 days. Then they sent a joint message to Earth. We stand with you. It was not a declaration of war. It was a promise of partnership. They formed the Belt Alliance, a loose network of free settlements that would trade, share knowledge, and protect each other. And at its heart was Earth's open network, Earth ships, Earth's way. The UEC was furious. They called the alliance illegal. They threatened to cut off all support. But the alliance didn't need UEC support anymore. They had Earth. Earth, in turn, did not claim leadership. It offered a seat at the table, equal to all. No one was above anyone else. Decisions were made by vote. Help was given without pride. In orbit above Earth, a new station was built. Not for war, but for welcome. It was called the Common Dock. Any ship from any world could stop there for rest, repair, or talk. It had gardens growing real plants, a library of open knowledge, and a wall covered in messages from every place Earth had visited. A child from Ceres wrote, "Thank you for clean water." A miner from Vesta wrote, "You saw us when no one else did." A teacher from Phobos wrote, "Now my students dream again." Earth's empire was not made of steel or fire. It was made of these words. of shared breath in cold space, of hands reaching out not to take but to lift. And as more ships, some not even from Earth, began to fly the green leaf symbol, the truth became clear. Earth had not been exiled from humanity. It had reminded humanity what it meant to care. The stars were no longer the property of the powerful. They belonged to anyone willing to build, to share and to help. And Earth, once cast out, now stood at the center, not by force but by choice. It started with a single shot. Near the icy moon of Ganymede, a small Earth supply ship, Odyssey 22-0, floated quietly along its route. It carried water purifiers, medical kits, and seeds for a new greenhouse being built by a group of independent farmers. There were no weapons on board, no soldiers, just 2 crew members and their cargo of help. A UEC patrol ship, the Vigilant, appeared without warning. It blocked the path and demanded the Earth vessel turn back. Unauthorized transit, the UEC officer said over the radio. This zone is under council control. Leave or be detained. The Earth captain, a calm woman named Mira Hassan from Cairo, replied, "We are on a humanitarian mission. We have permission from the Ganymede Free Collective. We mean no harm." "Permission from rebels means nothing," the UEC officer snapped. "Last warning." Before Mira could respond, the Vigilant fired. Not a full blast, just a warning shot across the bow. But in the silence of space, even a small explosion is loud. Shrapnel hit Odyssey 22's solar sail, tearing a long gash. The ship spun slightly, alarms beeping softly inside. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Earth was not welcome even when it came in peace. Back on Earth, people watched the footage. The UEC had released it proudly, calling it a lawful enforcement action. But the video showed something else, a small, unarmed ship, offering help, met with force. Earth did not send warships. It did not declare revenge. Instead, it did something no one expected. Within hours, Earth's global network broadcast the full recording, not just the UEC's edited version, but the raw feed from Odyssey 22 crew's cameras. It showed the calm voice of Captain Hassan. It showed the cargo manifest, medicine, seeds, filters. It showed the moment of the shot, cold and sudden. The broadcast went out on every open channel, Earth satellites, the Common Dock Network, even old emergency bands that off-world colonies still used. Anyone with a receiver could see it, and they did. On Ceres, miners gathered in mess halls watching in silence. On Phobos, students paused their lessons. On Vesta, traders stopped their deals. Even in UEC-controlled cities, people whispered, "Why did they shoot a help ship?" Then Earth did something else. It activated the silent shield. This was not a weapon. It was a system of small, smart drones, hundreds of them launched quietly over the past year. They looked like tiny satellites, no bigger than a shoebox. They carried no bombs, no lasers, only signal jammers and light reflectors. As the UEC tried to control the story, their comms began to glitch. Navigation beacons flickered. Patrol ships found their sensors confused by false signals. Data streams slowed. Not broken, just unclear. Like trying to hear a whisper in a windy room. The UEC panicked. They thought Earth had attacked, but Earth had not fired a single shot. It had only made noise, enough to drown out lies. Within 2 days, 3 UEC colonies broke away. First was Luna's South Crater hub. Its leaders announced they would no longer follow UEC orders. "We saw the video," their statement read. "We choose truth over control." Next was the Mars Dust Belt, a farming zone that had long resented UEC taxes. They opened their ports to Earth ships and joined the Belt Alliance. Then came the biggest shock. Titan's science ring, home to some of the UEC's top researchers, declared neutrality. "We study the universe to understand it," their lead scientist said, "not to weaponize it. We will trade knowledge with all who seek peace, including Earth." The UEC was crumbling from within. On Earth, people did not celebrate with fireworks. They gathered in town squares, community centers, and online forums. They shared ideas. They prepared. Ambassador Lin May, now the lead voice of the Global Accord, spoke to the world. "We do not want war," she said. "We never did. But we will not be silenced. We will not be erased. If the UEC wants to talk as equals, we are ready, but we will not beg to be heard." The UEC Council, once so sure of its power, was now divided. Some members wanted to strike harder. Others feared losing more colonies. Rumors spread of secret talks between UEC delegates and Earth representatives. Then, a surprise message came from Speaker Valen Rowe himself, the same man who had expelled Earth 5 years before. "The Council is willing to discuss a new arrangement," the message read. "Earth may send one delegate to Geneva orbit for talks." Many on Earth wanted to refuse. "They cast us out," people said. "Now they ask us to come back like nothing happened?" But Lin May disagreed. "This is not about going back," she told the Global Accord. "This is about moving forward. We don't want a seat at their old table. We want to build a new one." So Earth agreed, but on its own terms. The delegation would not be just one person. It would be a team. A farmer from Kenya, a doctor from Brazil, an engineer from Vietnam, a teacher from Norway, and Lin May. And they would not arrive in a borrowed UEC shuttle. They would come in Odyssey 30 Queer, a ship built by hands from 20 nations. When the day came, the ship docked at the old UEC station. The delegates stepped out in simple clothes, no uniforms, no medals. They carried no weapons, only datapads filled with proposals. The UEC expected demands. Instead, Earth offered a plan. It was called the Concord of Spheres. The idea was simple. No single group would rule space. Earth, the Belt Alliance, Mars, Luna, Titan, and all free settlements would share power. Decisions would be made by vote, not by force. Resources would be shared fairly. Knowledge would be open, and no one would be exiled for speaking their truth. The UEC leaders were stunned. They had expected anger. They got wisdom. Talks lasted 10 days. There were arguments, yes. Old wounds were hard to heal. But Earth did not raise its voice. It listened. It explained. It showed proof of clean water on Ceres, of schools on Phobos, of peace in the belt. And slowly, even the hardest UEC members began to see Earth's way worked, not because it was perfect, but because it was fair. On the final day, Speaker Rowe stood before the Joint Assembly, now including voices from every world. He looked at Lin May and said, "We were wrong." It was a small sentence, but in the silence that followed, it echoed like thunder. The United Earth Council was dissolved. In its place, the Concord of Spheres was born. Earth did not take control. It offered partnership, and this time the stars welcomed it, not as an exile, but as a friend. As the delegates returned to Earth, people did not cheer for victory. They cheered for hope, because the real battle had never been in space. It had been in the choice between fear and trust, and Earth had chosen trust. Now, the whole system would learn to do the same. Peace did not come with a grand ceremony or a signed treaty under flashing lights. It came quietly like morning light after a long night. The Concord of Spheres began not with rules, but with listening. Earth, the Belt Alliance, Mars, Luna, Titan, and even former UEC colonies sent representatives, not generals or politicians, but teachers, farmers, doctors, and engineers. They met not in a glass dome above Earth, but in a rotating station halfway between Mars and the asteroid belt, built by hands from all worlds. They called it the Common Table. At first, trust was thin. Old habits died hard. Some still watched Earth with suspicion, remembering the days when it was called backward or stuck in the dirt. But Earth did not try to prove them wrong with words. It showed them with actions. Earth ships still flew, but now they carried not just supplies, but students. Young people from Ceres came to learn soil farming in Kenya. Martian engineers trained in Earth's solar labs in Chile. Children from Luna visited ocean schools in Indonesia, touching real water for the first time. Knowledge flowed both ways. Earth learned from off-world too. How to grow food in low gravity, how to recycle air for years, how to read the stars without old maps. The fleet grew, but not for war. Earth ships became guardians of the lanes, patrolling not to control, but to help. If a trader's engine failed near Jupiter, an Earth vessel would stop and offer a tow. If a storm threatened a dome on Europa, Earth's weather satellites sent early warnings. No fees, no questions, just care. On Earth itself, life settled into a new rhythm. Cities breathed cleaner air. Rivers ran clear. Forests grew where deserts once spread. With no need to feed an arms race, resources went to healing the planet. Every child learned not just how to read, but how to fix a water pump or grow food in a small space. Schools had gardens on rooftops and labs in basements. History lessons included not just wars, but moments of unity, like the day Earth chose to build instead of break. In orbit, the common dock became a place of meeting, not just docking. People from all worlds walked its halls, some in boots, some in magnetic shoes, some barefoot on soft grass grown under glass. There was a library with books in 50 languages, a music room where flutes from Earth mixed with digital harps from Titan, and a wall where anyone could leave a message. One read, "My grandmother lived on Earth. My child was born on Ceres. We are all from the same root." The old UEC elites faded into history. Some joined the new Concord. Others retired, ashamed or humbled. But no one was punished. Earth believed that shame should lead to change, not exile. Years passed. The Odyssey ships were no longer the newest in space, but they were still the most trusted. New vessels were built, some on Earth, some in the Belt, some on Mars, each carrying the green leaf symbol, not as a flag of ownership, but as a sign of shared care. Then, something new happened. A signal came from far beyond the solar system. Faint, repeating, clear. It was not random noise. It was a pattern. A message. Scientists from every world gathered to study it. At first, they argued over what it meant. But then Earth suggested something simple. Let's answer together. So they did. The reply was not a show of power. It was a song made from Earth's birdsong, Martian wind chimes, Ceres' ice echoes, and Titan's methane hum. It carried greetings in every human language, plus simple math and images of hands reaching out. It was sent from a new deep space antenna built by all members of the Concord. When the news spread, people did not panic. They gathered. In domes, in cities, in fields. They looked up, not with fear, but with wonder. Because humanity was no longer divided. Earth had once been cast out for wanting to speak for itself. Now it helped all voices be heard. Children born in this new time knew no us versus them. To them, Earth was not a planet to escape, but a home to honor. They learned that strength was not in weapons, but in sharing. That power was not in control, but in trust. In classrooms across the system, teachers told the story of the exile, not as a tragedy, but as a turning point. They told Earth it didn't belong, the lesson went. So Earth built a new way to belong together. Older people smiled when they heard it. They remembered the fear, the silence after the expulsion, the first shaky launch of Odyssey 1. They remembered when help was rare, and kindness was seen as weakness. Now kindness was the strongest force in space. Earth's empire was never made of conquest. It was made of choices, millions of small choices to help, to listen, to build. It had no throne, no capital, no army. Its heart beat in every hand that fixed a broken ship. Every voice that said, "You're not alone." Every seed planted in strange soil. And as the years rolled on, that heart grew stronger. New outposts bloomed near Neptune. Research stations floated in the Oort cloud. All flew the green leaf, not because Earth demanded it, but because they chose it. They saw what Earth had done. It had turned pain into purpose, exile into example. Even the stars seemed closer now, not because ships flew faster, but because people flew together. On Earth, in a quiet village near the Himalayas, an old woman sat on a stone bench watching the sunset. Her name was Lin May. She no longer wore suits or gave speeches. She taught children how to grow potatoes in small boxes and how to read the sky. A boy asked her, "Were you really the one who saved us?" She smiled. "No one saved us. We saved each other." And that was the truth. Earth had not conquered the stars. It had reminded humanity that the stars were never meant to be owned, only shared. As night fell, lights came on in homes below. In orbit, a ship passed silently overhead, its sail catching the last light of the sun. On its side, painted in simple letters, were 2 words, "Common Destiny." And far away, in the deep dark between stars, a new signal began to form, faint but steady. This time, it was a reply.